Hey guys, it's Archon and welcome to Marvel Monday. This last Tuesday we got a new patch, so I'll go over those patch notes really quickly since I already talked about them a bit before the patch came out. And then I just wanted to highlight a few interesting forum threads that I found while perusing the forum. So first up, this patch that just came out, mostly hero changes. Lots of hero changes. There are some exciting things coming to the game, which I am crazy excited about, and you can watch my last Marvel Monday video if you want to hear what those are. These are just hero changes. They're not making any changes to my hero, Hawkeye, at least my main hero that I'm playing right now. So it wasn't that exciting for me, but I do think some of these heroes needed a lot of fixing, and so I think a lot of players will be excited about it. But I did read up on the forums a bit just to see what people's first opinions are, people who actually play these heroes that are getting the big changes. First up, they did defense changes. A lot of the defense skills got buffed. As you might have noticed, they've been buffing defense like crazy because it's just not effective enough. It doesn't do as much as it should, and it's just not usable enough. So defense skills becoming better. Also, ultimate powers. A ton of the ultimate abilities are getting super buffed, a lot stronger. Some of them are getting fixed that weren't working the way that they were intended to work. Black Panther got a few small buffs. Black Widow got some small buffs. Cable as well got ultimate power buff. Captain America Ultimate Power Buff, Colossus Ultimate Power Buff, Cyclops Ultimate Power Buff, Daredevil Ultimate Power Buff, Hulk Ultimate Power, Iron Man got a few small buffs all around. They say they're still working on him. It seems like there's a big problem with Iron Man and some of the other characters, but I'll talk about that later because there was a good forum post on that. But they are still working on him. They say that he still needs a lot of improvements before he has multiple viable builds, but they did add some buffs to his shields, such as making energy shields replenish spirit and kinetic shields replenish health, which I thought was kind of cool. Punisher, they buffed a ton of things with Punisher. Some people have described Punisher as a walking turret. He really only has a few usable skills, and so they tried to buff a bunch of his other skills and synergize them. They did a lot more with fear now, so a lot of his skills get bonuses from fear. But after reading the forums, most people seem to think he's still a walking turret. He's not that complex, and still only has a couple usable skills, so hopefully they'll continue to work on Punisher. However, I kind of like straightforward heroes. I haven't played Punisher much, but I really like Hawkeye because he has only a few skills. Of course, it's not ideal though when you only have one viable build. Rocket Raccoon, they say they're going to be working on him a lot in the future, but they only did a few small things right now, including a small buff to his ultimate power. Spider-Man got a huge buff to his ultimate power, and it's working correctly now according to the patch notes. I haven't tested it, and then a lot of just small damage buffs to make more viable builds. Thing, ultimate power buff. Thor got a ton of buffs. Now, Thor, they say they're trying to make it so more of his skills are able to compete with Bring the Thunder. Bring the Thunder is the skill that everyone uses, and so they buffed a lot of his abilities. And they also sped up the animation of a lot of his abilities, and this is one thing that I think Gazillion should be doing more of. Animation times are painfully slow on like half of the skills in Marvel Heroes. I just really think it interrupts your gameplay and makes the game feel much less responsive. When you hit a skill and then half a second later it hits them, you don't feel like you're fully in control of your character, and that feels less responsive. If you look at a game like Diablo 3, their skills will automatically cut to the animation where you're already hitting the target as soon as you use it. You don't even notice it because it happens so quickly, but if you hit like bash on a barbarian, the barbarian doesn't pull back and then hit the target. The barbarian's axe is immediately teleported to the target right as you're hitting bash, which means as you're hitting the button, you're also hitting the enemy. And that's why it feels so responsive compared to a game like this, compared to probably most action RPGs, which will show the wind up. It's going to look a little bit more fluid with the attacks. The attacks are going to look cooler, but is that really important compared to just responsiveness? To feeling like you're really in control of your character? I think Gazillion could take a note from Blizzard, at least on this point. Speed up the animations. Better yet, take out the animations, at least the backswing, and just let us hit targets right as we're pushing the ability. I know there are some abilities where it makes sense to have a small delay of the attack, but I think most abilities should happen right as you're hitting them. We should move right as we click to move, and we feel really responsive. It just feels really important in an action RPG to have full control over your character and to do things right when you want to do them, not shortly after. Anyways, that's my rant on that, but Thor is getting some improvements in that area. Wolverine probably had the best buffs as far as the players being responsive to the changes of a hero, people seem to like Wolverine's changes. Now, of course, there are some disagreements. Anytime you change a hero completely, people are going to be upset. They're like, no, I like my hero the way it was, and now it's completely different. Wolverine is completely different. They changed a bunch of things. They even took out some skills and replaced them with new skills, and so Wolverine feels a lot different. But overall, the consensus seems to be that he is stronger. He works better now. And if you feel like your Wolverine isn't as strong as it used to be, you might just need to find a new build. And I found a forum post that goes over some new cool builds for Wolverine since he got his changes. Changes to enemies and bosses. There were some pretty big changes here. They're completely removing the ignore defense affix. I guess they feel like it's too powerful, or maybe just not interesting enough. They say it's still found on some enemies, but it's going to be completely removed soon. Heals when dealing damage has been renamed to lifesteal to be more clear. I guess that is a little bit more clear. And listen to this change. They're changing the lifesteal from 20% to 2%. 1/10 of the amount of lifesteal that bosses used to have. I agree with the change. Lifesteal was crazy OP, or I should say heals when dealing damage was, but only Gazillion does changes that huge in one fell swoop. I think they just move really quickly, so sometimes they make big mistakes and they have to make dramatic changes, but way to go. Lifesteal was crazy OP, only 2% now. I'm not even sure if we're going to be able to notice it, but definitely better than what it used to be, I think. Damage Shield has been renamed to Invulnerability Shield to be more clear, although I'm still not sure if it's just a time thing where it just goes away after a certain amount of time, or if it takes a certain amount of damage and then goes away. Let me know in the comments if you know. Red Terminal bosses can now spawn with a wider variety of powers, so there's more affixes on the Red Terminal bosses. Mandarin got some changes. Mostly it's just looks like they're making it easier to dodge Mandarin's attacks, which I have to agree it was kind of hard to dodge them. Enemy experience has been increased in green terminals, red terminals, and purple spoke group challenges. It looks like they're pretty much buffing all the experience in endgame except for maybe Limbo. I'm not really sure what purple spoke group challenges are, but that's a good thing. We should level faster, and those green and red terminals definitely needed some more incentive for us to farm them. And then cosmic keys. They're removing cosmic keys as a requirement for entering any zones. So you can now just go into zones whenever you want to. I think that's a good change. They do say that cosmic keys will have some kind of utility in the future, but they haven't told us what it is yet, so hold on to your cosmic keys. Pets. They buffed summon pets. They pretty much doubled the damage of all the pets approximately multiplied the health of the pets by 5. A lot more health, pretty much doubled the duration of most pets, and they increased the attack speed of some of the pets as well. So pets are way more buff, at least these summoned ones that are listed here. They also made some changes to items. Pretty much they nerfed a bunch of artifacts and they buffed a bunch of medallions. And you can read through all of the actual buffs and changes that they made. But I kind of liked that the artifacts were a bit OP, but I understand why they wouldn't want them to be. It does kind of devalue every other piece of gear that you have. But medals definitely needed some buffing. Your favorite metal probably didn't get buffed. It's mostly the ones that no one was using, but a lot of your favorite artifacts probably did get nerfed, but maybe it's for the better. Now, I know these aren't very exciting item changes. Itemization still needs a lot of work, and they say they're going to be working on it, so hopefully we'll hear something about that in the near future. And then, of course, there were some bug fixes. Nothing too exciting there, but you can read through those if you want to from the link in the description. And then there was 4 forum posts I found that I just thought could use some attention, and I want to talk about them and give my opinion on them. Someone made a forum post called, "For those saying new Wolverine is great, post your builds." And there's just some cool builds posted on here. I won't go through the builds because I don't play Wolverine. I don't know much about him, but people say that these builds are good. And it's just a cool forum for people to share new builds they've found. So if you play Wolverine and you're having trouble with them, look at this post. It's linked in the description below. Also, we have this forum post by JohnX says, "Hey guys, any plans to rework damage scaling in group play for AoE dots, beam attacks?" So AoE dots and beam attacks have been bugged for a while. I assume they'd be fixed by now. I don't use a character that uses them anymore, but I guess they actually haven't been fixed yet. Gazillion has addressed this, but basically certain AoE dots and beam attacks don't respond to damage scaling in groups. Typically when you're playing with other players, the damage of your spells is decreased, but not AoE dots and beam spells. They still do 100% damage. I noticed this originally when I was playing Rocket Raccoon. My BFG was super OP when I was in groups, and then it seemed appropriately scaled when I was solo, and so I came to that conclusion, and then sure enough I got a lot of feedback from the forums that said the same thing. Gazillion has addressed it, but they haven't said what they're going to do about it yet, so it would be nice to know what they're planning on doing or why they haven't fixed it yet. It's probably just more complicated than it sounds to me, but I would love to hear more about that. And also, once they fix that, as a lot of people point out in this forum post, the group challenges, especially Limbo, are going to be really hard because those dots and AoEs do so much damage right now that's most of the damage in Limbo. You take away that bonus damage you're doing by not reducing the damage in groups, and Limbo is going to be a lot harder. So they might have to scale back the group challenges, or they might have to just buff skills on a massive level. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'd love to hear Gazillion's thoughts about it. We know they're aware of the problem, but we don't know how they're planning on fixing it. Next forum post I want to point out is this one called Deeper, More Fun Combat Always Has One Thing, Combos by Kent S. I thought this was a really cool idea, something I hadn't thought about before, but basically what he's suggesting is making it so that certain skills will buff other skills for a short period of time. And I really like this idea. One of the things it seems like Gazillion is having the most trouble with, and maybe all action RPG creators are having the most trouble with, is making lots of viable builds. A lot of spells just don't get used at all right now, and I think this could fix that problem. If you made it so that certain spells, the ones that aren't being used very much, would get a big damage increase, like 100% additional damage if they were used within a couple seconds after another spell, then it would make sense to spec into those. Now, it'd be a lot of testing to find that balance so you don't feel obligated to do the combo. Maybe 100% is too much, maybe 50% would be better. I don't know, but play around with it. Try to find a way that you could continue using the build you want, or you could add one or two more abilities and do combos of one or two, three different spells. Not only would it make other abilities more viable than they used to be, it also might be a lot of fun to do combos instead of just spamming the one spell over and over again. So kudos to Kent. I thought that was an awesome idea. Again, link in the description. And then the last forum post I wanted to share was this one called If Only Skill Points Allocation Were Bound to Costumes by Atmos. I'd never thought about this before, but I think this is a great idea. Make it so that every costume you have can have its own set of skill points. So when you get a new costume and you put it on, all your skill points are reset, and you can put them wherever you want to. If you want to, you can keep them where you had them before, so it is a little bit of extra work if you don't like the idea. But if you want to have multiple builds, you can put a different build on each costume, and then when you switch it out, it will just give you that build without having to use a retcon device. I think that's an amazing idea. This just blew my mind. I was like, wow, why hadn't I thought of this? This is a great idea. It's really simple. I don't know how much work it would take, but it seems like the only downside from Gazillion's point of view is that it would devalue retcon devices. But I don't think it would devalue them much, and it would increase the value of costumes, and costumes are a lot more expensive than retcon devices. So I say, why not? Go Atmos. I think that's a great idea. Again, link in the description. So that's everything I could find on Marvel Heroes this week that I thought was worth sharing with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that subscribe button if you did, and I'll have another one for you next week.